The sirens wailed like a death knell, just as the officiant raised his hands to pronounce us husbands, shattering the fragile bubble of joy we'd built in my parents' backyard. "Freeze! Everyone stay where you are?" a burly cop bellowed, his hand hovering over his holster as 3 squad cars screeched to a halt on the gravel driveway, red and blue lights painting the golden autumn leaves in frantic pulses. My heart slammed against my ribs, not from fear of the badges, but from the venomous glare of Mrs. Hargrove, our next-door neighbor, who stood on her porch like a vengeful specter, her wrinkled finger jabbing the air as if she could summon lightning to strike us down. I'm Jordan Hayes, student body president at Elmwood University, the golden boy who organized pride rallies and mediated campus protests with a smile that disarmed even the most stubborn deans. At 25, I'd clawed my way from a trailer park in rural Ohio to a full-ride scholarship, dreaming of a life where love wasn't a battlefield. And there, across the aisle of white folding chairs draped in rainbow sashes, stood Josiah Rivera, my anchor, my fire, dark-eyed and broad-shouldered, with that quiet intensity that made my knees weak from the day we met in freshman lit class, debating Whitman like it was gospel. We'd planned this wedding for months, a modest affair in my folks' sprawling backyard in suburban Chicago, where the maples blazed crimson and the air smelled of cider and possibility. 80 guests. My poli-sci crew from school, Josiah's tight-knit family from the South Side, a smattering of professors who'd become like uncles. My mom fussed over the cake, a 3-tiered masterpiece with edible forget-me-nots, while Dad grilled burgers on the patio, pretending not to tear up every time he looked at me. Josiah's abuela, with her silver rosary and unyielding faith, had blessed the rings that morning, whispering in Spanish that love like ours was God's quiet miracle. But Mrs. Hargrove, Ethel, to her bridge club cronies, had other ideas. She'd been our thorn since we moved in 2 years ago, a widow in her 70s with a Confederate flag fluttering defiantly in her front yard and a mouth that spewed slurs like confetti at a hate rally. "Filth," she'd hiss when we'd hold hands on the porch, or "Adam and Eve," not Adam and Steve scrawled in Sharpie on our mailbox. We'd laughed it off at first, chalking it up to old age's bitterness, but Josiah saw the fear in her eyes, the kind that festers when the world you knew starts slipping away. The wedding day dawned perfect, fog lifting off Lake Michigan like a sigh, birds chattering in the oaks. I woke in my childhood bed, nerves buzzing like live wires, Josiah's text lighting up my phone. "Can't wait to make you mine forever. See you at the altar, Prez." I chuckled, slipping into my tux. Tailored black wool, crisp white shirt, a pocket square embroidered with our initials intertwined. Downstairs, my sister Lena pinned a boutonniere of lavender to my lapel, her eyes misty. "You're glowing, Jordy. He's the one." The ceremony setup was magic. An arch of wildflowers framing the view of the pond, strings of Edison bulbs swaying gently, a string quartet warming up with Pachelbel's canon. Guests arrived in waves. My best man, Tyler, cracking jokes about my pre-wedding jitters. Josiah's brother Marco, lugging coolers of craft beer from the family brewery. Laughter bubbled as we posed for photos, Josiah stealing a quick kiss that tasted like champagne and home. Then, as the quartet struck up the processional, Josiah appeared at the end of the aisle, arm in arm with his mom, her veil fluttering like a flag of surrender. He was breathtaking. Ebony curls tamed just enough, his smile a beacon that pulled me under. Our eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to us. The boy who'd shared his notes in that rainy seminar, who'd held me through my coming-out implosion with my conservative extended family, who'd whispered "I love you" under starlit campus quads. We reached the altar, hands clasped, the officiant, a queer rabbi from the university synagogue, beaming as he began. "Dearly beloved, we gather today to celebrate the union of Jordan and Josiah." Vows exchanged in voices thick with emotion. Mine promising to fight for him like I fought for every underdog on campus. His vowing to be my steady harbor amid the storms. Rings slid on, cool platinum warming against skin. And then, the words, "By the power vested." Sirens. Chaos. The cops' shout yanked us back, guests gasping, chairs scraping as bodies surged. Josiah's grip tightened on mine, his whisper fierce. "What the hell?" I scanned the crowd, spotting Mrs. Hargrove's silhouette through the fence, phone in hand, her lips curled in triumph. "Step aside, folks," the lead officer barked. A A stocky guy named Ramirez from the local precinct. I recognized his name tag from community meetings I'd chaired. We got a call about an unlawful assembly. Noise complaint. Possible trespassing. Unlawful? This was private property. My property, technically. My parents' deed, but blood-deep mine. Anger coiled in my gut. Hot and familiar. The same fire that fueled my speeches against injustice. But beneath it, betrayal stung sharper than any slur. How many block parties had we invited her to? How many times had Josiah shoveled her walk after snowstorms? Only for her to mutter thanks. Boy, like it was a curse. Ramirez approached, eyes flicking between us, then widening slightly as recognition dawned. Jordan Hayes? From Elmwood? You're the one getting hitched. I straightened, channeling every ounce of that student body gravitas. Officer, this is a private wedding on private land. No laws broken. Check the permit. It's all filed with the county. He radioed it in, static crackling like dry bones, while another cop herded guests toward the patio, murmuring apologies. Josiah's abuela clutched her shawl, crossing herself. My mom hovered, face ashen, Dad's fists clenched at his sides. Whispers rippled. Is this because? That old bat. Mrs. Hargrove must have heard the commotion. She shuffled to the fence line, her bathrobe flapping like a surrender flag she refused to wave. They're queers, turning the neighborhood into Sodom and Gomorrah. I pay taxes for decency. Her voice sliced through the yard, raw and ragged, laced with decades of unchecked bigotry. Guests froze. A few professors muttered about lawsuits. Josiah's jaw ticked, his free hand balling into a fist. He'd always been the protector, the one who'd pull me from bar fights or boardroom brawls with a calm that belied his boxer's build. Ma'am, Ramirez said, turning toward her. You the complainant? Damn right. Been complaining for years. This abomination stops now. Abomination. The word landed like a gut punch, echoing the sermons I'd fled in my youth, the disownments that scarred my cousins. But I wasn't that scared kid anymore. I stepped forward, Josiah's hand still in mine, our rings glinting like defiant stars. Mrs. Hargrove, we've been neighbors for 2 years. Shared fences, shared storms. Why today? Why us? She faltered, just a flicker. Eyes darting to the crowd, the cameras some guests had whipped out. Because it's wrong. God's law. God's love invited everyone here. The rabbi interjected softly, but firmly. Including you, if you'd chosen grace over grievance. The radio crackled. Permit confirmed. All clear. Ramirez sighed, holstering his notepad. False alarm, folks. Sorry for the interruption. Carry on. But the damage was done. The quartet fumbled back into tune, guests resettling with forced smiles. But the air hung heavy, joy fractured. We finished the vows in hushed tones, sealing our kiss amid scattered applause that felt like pity. As we recessed down the aisle, I caught Mrs. Hargrove retreating to her porch, door slamming like a final judgment. That night, reception lights twinkled under threat of rain, toasts rang hollow. Josiah pulled me aside by the pond, his arms a fortress. We got this, Jord. She's just noise. I nodded, burying my face in his neck, inhaling the cedar of his cologne mixed with the faint salt of unshed tears. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Her call wasn't just hate. It was a crack in the foundation we'd built, exposing the rot beneath our American dream. And as student body president, with a platform that reached thousands, I wondered if silence was still an option. Little did I know, her poison ran deeper, fed by a betrayal I never saw coming. One that would test not just our love, but the very soul of the community we'd fought to call home. The fallout hit like a Midwest blizzard, swift, unrelenting, burying us under drifts of doubt and division. By Monday morning, our wedding video had gone viral, not for the vows or the cake-cutting laughter, but for Mrs. Hargrove's porchside tirade, captured in grainy cell phone glory and amplified by every progressive outlet from BuzzFeed to the Chicago Tribune. Racist neighbor crashes gay wedding, then karma kicks in, blared the headlines, my face pixelated beside Josiah's, our rings a tiny symbol of resistance. As student body president, I fielded calls from deans demanding statements, alumni donors offering legal aid, and reporters hungry for the human interest angle. Elmwood's campus buzzed like a hive on fire. Protests erupted outside the student union. Rainbow flags waving, chants of love wins echoing off ivy-clad walls. Tyler, my VP, organized a solidarity rally, but whispers slithered through. Did Jordan know she'd escalate? Is this good PR or just trauma porn? Josiah, ever the steady one, commuted from our shared apartment off campus, teaching intro sociology to wide-eyed freshmen who now dissected our story like a case study in microaggressions. At home, the betrayal festered. I'd always prided myself on bridge building, mediating frat hazing scandals, brokering peace between activist groups. So, naively, I knocked on Mrs. Hargrove's door that Tuesday evening, armed with chamomile tea and a copy of The Velveteen Rabbit, the book Josiah read to me during my darkest nights. Real isn't how you are made, he'd quote, tracing my scars from old fights. It's a thing that happens to you. She answered in a housecoat stained with yesterday's soup, her eyes narrowing to slits. The living room behind her was a shrine to faded glory. Doilies yellowed with time, framed photos of a stern husband in uniform, a Bible thumping on the coffee table like a gavel. What do you want, boy? No Jordan. Not anymore. Just boy. Laced with the same disdain she'd hurled at black kids on the block. To talk? I said, stepping inside uninvited, the tea steaming between us like a fragile truce. That call ruined our day, Ethel. But yelling won't fix what's eating you. She snatched the book, flipping it like it burned. Fix? You think your perversion needs fixing? My herald fought in Korea for a country like this, decent, God-fearing. Now it's all parades and pronouns. Her words clawed, but I pressed on, voice steady as a filibuster. Harold sounds like he fought for freedom, for all of us, including me and Josiah. I glanced at a photo, her younger, smiling, arm around a soldier with eyes like Josiah's warm, weary. What would he say about cops at a wedding? She deflated onto the sofa, clutching the book. For a moment, vulnerability cracked her armor. A widow's loneliness, perhaps, or the ache of a changing world. He'd say it's a sin, but he wasn't perfect. Drank too much after the war. Hit me once. The confession hung, raw as an open wound. I reached for her hand. She yanked away, but not before a tear escaped. We talked for hours, haltingly at first, then in floods. Her youth in segregated Alabama, marrying young to escape poverty. Harold's letters from the front promising a better life. The move to Chicago in the 70s, chasing factory jobs that vanished with Reaganomics. Folks like you, she spat, then softened. You remind me of my nephew, Tommy. Sweet kid. But he took his life. After his daddy found those letters to a boy in his platoon. The room spun. Betrayal, not from her, but from the silence that swallowed stories like Tommy's. I'd organized mental health drives, but this, personal, piercing.
I'm sorry, he whispered.
That's not on you. Or us. She waved it off, but something shifted. A chink in the wall. Get out. I need to think. As I left, she muttered, tell your husband the tea was nice. Hope flickered, fragile as September frost. I recounted it all to Josiah that night, curled on our couch amid Takeout Thai and The Crown reruns. He listened, thumb tracing my knuckles, his laugh lines deepening with concern. You're too forgiving, Prez. She called the cops on our vows. But what if she's not the villain? What if she's just broken? I leaned into him, his heartbeat a drum against my cheek. We'd built this life on second chances. Me forgiving my family's initial recoil. Him bridging his abuela's Catholicism with our truth. Romance wasn't grand gestures. It was these nights vulnerability bared like open books. Yet, the idol cracked wider midweek. A package arrived at my campus office. Anonymous, wrapped in brown paper. Inside, a manila envelope thick with printouts, screenshots of my old social media, twisted out of context. Student Body President Jordan Hayes, hypocrite? The anonymous email attached read, you preach tolerance, but your neighborly chats? Just pandering for votes. We know what you really think about folks like her. My stomach plummeted. Betrayal? Sharp and intimate. I'd vented in a private group chat months ago, after another slur-scribbled mailbox. That old hag's gonna get what's coming. Harmless frustration, deleted threads among friends. But someone, Tyler, a rival for next term's elections, had screenshotted, weaponized it. Josiah found me there, head in hands, the office reeking of stale coffee. Jord? What's wrong? He scanned the pages, face hardening like flint. This is bullshit. We'll trace it.
No.
I stood, pacing the Persian rug we'd salvaged from a dorm sale. It makes me look like the bigot, right when Elmwood needs unity. Tears burned. I swiped them away. As president, I championed anti-hate resolutions, but now, muddy waters. He pulled me close, his embrace a lifeline. Then we fight cleaner. Together. We brainstormed late into the night, press releases, a town hall on elder isolation and queer rights. But doubt gnawed. Was our love the spark or the fuse? The climax brewed that Friday rally day. Hundreds gathered on the quad, signs bobbing. Neighbors, not enemies. I took the stage, Mike trembling in my grip, Josiah in the front row, his nod my North Star. This isn't about one call, one video. It's about the America we build, where a wedding isn't a war zone, where pain doesn't breed more pain. Cheers swelled, but midway, a heckler pierced the din. Hypocrite! A figure in a hoodie lobbed the envelope skyward, pages fluttering like confetti from hell. Gasps rippled. Cameras whirred. Tyler rushed the stage, face pale. Jord, you. Josiah surged forward, security trailing. You leaked it. Tyler stammered, eyes darting. It was supposed to be leverage for the election. I thought you'd step down, make room. But then, the wedding video, it blew up. I panicked. Betrayal landed like a sucker punch. From my right hand, the friend who'd toasted our engagement weeks ago. Josiah's fist connected with Tyler's jaw, a crack echoing like thunder, before security hauled him back. The crowd fractured, some chanting support, others murmuring doubt. I froze, the mic a dead weight, as rain began to patter, washing ink from the scattered pages. In that moment under gray Chicago skies, I saw it all. The fragility of trust, the cost of visibility. Josiah's eyes met mine, fierce, unyielding, and he mouthed, "We got this." But as Tyler was led away, sobbing apologies, I wondered if we could weather the storm without shattering. The rally dissolved into chaos, umbrellas blooming like black lotuses. News vans swarmed. My phone exploded with notifications. Backstage, Josiah wrapped me in his jacket, rain-slicked and shivering. He was family, I choked. How? Family betrays hardest, he said, voice rough. But look at us. We chose each other. That's the win. We drove home in silence, wipers slashing the downpour, the city lights blurring into halos. That night, tangled in sheets scented with his skin, we made no promises, just held on, breaths sinking like a vow renewed. Romance, I realized, wasn't absence of conflict. It was choosing the fight, every dawn. But the real tempest loomed. Mrs. Hargrove's next move, one that would force us to confront not just hate, but the humanity buried beneath it. The scandal snowballed through the weekend, a media maelstrom that turned our quiet life into a national sideshow. CNN looped the rally brawl, Josiah's swing edited for maximum drama, while op-eds dissected the Hayes affair as a microcosm of millennial activism's fractures. Elmwood's board called an emergency meeting. I prepped my resignation speech, words blurring on the page as Josiah paced our kitchen, brewing espresso strong enough to wake the dead. Don't you dare quit, he growled, slamming mugs down. Tyler's the snake, not you. His faith anchored me, a romantic tether in the gale. We'd always balanced each other, me the strategist, him the soul. Ever since that lit class, when he challenged my Whitman take with a passion that left me breathless. Now, as fallout buried us, his touch was salvation. Fingers interlacing over breakfast, a kiss pressed to my temple like a talisman. Monday brought the boardroom reckoning. Suited trustees eyed me like a liability, the dean, a silver-haired ally who'd officiated my first pride vigil, clearing his throat. Jordan, your leadership's been exemplary, but this perception issue, I laid it bare, voice steady. The leak, Tyler's ambition, the deeper wound of vulnerability exploited. If I step down, what message? That standing up to bigotry costs your voice. Slides clicked. Data on queer student retention, hate crime spikes post our video. Josiah waited outside, texting encouragements, "You're slaying dragons, Prez," his humor a lifeline. They kept me on probationary with a public apology tour. Relief washed over, but the real test waited at home. A note slipped under our door, scrawled in Mrs. Hargrove's looping cursive. Porch, 7 p.m. Come alone. Dusk painted the street in bruised purples as I approached her steps, heart hammering. She sat in a wicker rocker, a quilt over her knees, the Confederate flag furled like a guilty secret. No tea this time, just a shoebox on the side table, lid ajar, spilling yellowed letters. Sit, she commanded, softer than before. I perched on the railing, the wood creaking under me. Ethel, shut up and listen. She tapped the box. Tommy's letters. All of 'em. After you came by. I read 'em again. Boy poured his heart out, same as you do in those speeches. Her voice cracked, eyes distant. I burned the replies, thought it'd toughen him, save him from himself. The confession hung, heavy as humidity before a storm. Betrayal echoed, not just hers to Tommy, but mine to the ghosts I'd ignored in my advocacy. You could have helped him, I said, gentle. Loved him through it. I know. Tears carved tracks down her cheeks, unashamed. Buried it all after the funeral. Blamed the war, the queers, anything but me. Then you too, happy, loud about it. Made me see what I lost. Silence stretched, broken only by crickets and distant traffic. She slid the box toward me. Donate M. to your school. Let kids know they're not alone. I took it, fingers brushing hers. Papery, trembling. Thank you. No absolution, just a bridge extended, rickety but real. Word spread quietly. The box archived in Elmwood's LGBTQ center. Tommy's story anonymized into a traveling exhibit. Mrs. Hargrove attended the unveiling. Perched in the back row, Josiah's arm a tentative buffer between us. Whispers hushed as she stood, voice quavering. My nephew. He deserved better. So do you all. Applause thundered, not for spectacle but substance. A widow's reckoning, raw and redemptive. Our reconciliation wasn't fairy tale tidy. Slurs lingered in her mutters. We'd catch her eyeing Josiah's hand on my waist with a flinch. But small graces bloomed. Her waving from the porch during our jogs. A pecan pie left on the stoop for the boys' anniversary. Humanistic, messy. America in miniature, where progress inches forward on cracked sidewalks. Tyler's fallout sealed the arc expelled. He emailed an abject apology. I was scared. Of losing power, of change. You showed me grace I didn't earn. Josiah forwarded it with a single emoji. A snake emoji, coiled and crossed out. We didn't respond. Forgiveness had limits, but understanding? That we extended in therapy sessions where we unpacked the bruise. Climax crested that spring, at Elmwood's commencement. As outgoing president, I keynote under a sky vast as possibility. Thousands in caps and gowns, a sea of black. Josiah sat front row, Abuela beaming beside him, Mrs. Hargrove a surprise guest in the wings, invited by me, accepted with a gruff nod. Graduates, I began, voice carrying like wind over the lake. We're not defined by our falls, but by the hands we extend after. Stories wove. Tommy's letters, Tyler's hubris, our crashed wedding. Love isn't absence of conflict. It's the courage to conflict with hate, within and without. Laughter rippled at the cop anecdote. Tears at Tommy's legacy. To Josiah, my husband, my horizon. Thank you for choosing the fight with me. He met me on stage post-ovation. Kiss sealing the words amid whoops and flashes. Mrs. Hargrove approached later, at the reception tents, her cane tapping like a metronome. Proud of you, Jordan. To Josiah, you too, son. No embrace but eye contact, real, reciprocal. We drove west that summer, honeymooning Route 66 in a vintage Mustang, chasing sunsets from Chicago to Santa Monica. Deserts blurred into oceans, our hands linked over the gearshift, radio crooning Springsteen anthems. Born to Run blared as we crested dunes, sand whipping like confetti. This is us, Josiah said, pulling over at twilight, the Pacific crashing below. Unstoppable. I leaned into him, salt air mingling with his warmth. Betrayal scars lingered, faint lines on our map, but they'd mapped a deeper path. Resilience forged in fire, romance tempered by truth. No bikink tragedy, but a humanistic coda. Love as quiet revolution, one neighbor, one vote, one vow at a time. Back home, the house stood sentinel, Mrs. Hargrove's lights a companion glow. We'd host block parties now, inclusive feasts where slurs dissolved in shared pie. Elmwood thrived under new leadership. Tommy's exhibit toured nationally, sparking dialogues in dusty diners and gleaming halls. Years folded forward. Adoptions, campaigns, Josiah's tenure track, my nonprofit bridging generations. We'd argue over chores, make up with slow dances in the kitchen. Our rings worn smooth as river stones. And on quiet nights, porch swings creaking, I'd think of that siren-wailed altar. Not an end, but ignition. In America's vast, vexed heart, we'd carved a corner, dramatic, suspenseful, achingly human, where a wedding crashed by hate became the spark that lit the way.